Good day to you all, my wonderful students. I'm so glad to be here once again, and I know you are all happy to see me from your various homes. How are we all doing? Our siblings and our parents, hope we are all keeping safe and ensure to maintain social distance whenever you go out and use your nose masks. Wash your hands regularly or sanitize them regularly. Please, I believe we are all reading all our notes. Go to the school website, download the notes, and write it in your notes. With this, there's no test or examination that comes your way that you won't conquer. Last week, we discussed about our 8th week topic, which is grassland habitat and arid habitat. Under that topic, we talked about the types of grassland and the types of arid habitat. We also discussed about their characteristics, that is the characteristics features of both habitat, that is grassland and arid habitat. We move as far as talking about the distributions of plants and animals that reside in this habitat. And finally, we also discussed about the adaptations of these plants and animals that reside on grassland and habitats. Today, we are going to be seeing our 9th week topic for this term, which is ecology of population. Our 9th week for this term is ecology of population. And under it, we are going to be talking about effects of overcrowding. But before we move ahead, it is important for you to know the learning objective for today's class. The learning objective for today's class are, at the end of this lesson, you should all be able to define the term succession. You must be able to distinguish between primary and secondary successions. You should also be able to describe the characteristics of stable community and recognize the climax of a community or a section. Also, you should be able to define what overcrowding is, state the factors that you think can cause overcrowding, and finally, you should be able to state the effect of overcrowding in an habitat. Let's move on. What is ecological succession? Ecological succession refers to the series of gradual changes being carried out by plant and animal communities in an area in which, with time, lower organisms are replaced with higher ones until a stable or climax community is reached or established. Succession begins as soon as the land, such as a bare or barren rocks, is first colonized by leach and then followed by annual grass and herbs. Then they are succeeded by perennial and biennial grasses, and herbs too, which are succeeded by shrubby growths and later hardy shrubs and fast-growing trees, and finally by forest trees. That is, ecological succession simply means a particular barren land or community that has nothing on it, and before you know it, the first colonizer will come to inhabit the land. Examples of such colonizers are leech, from there moss, then followed by grasses, which are often green grasses, then followed by annual crops, perennial crops, and biennial crops. And before you know it, we also have shrubs occurs in the process. And finally, you have trees, tall trees growing in such community or habitat, which at the end of the day form what we refer to as forest. And once this is happening, once it forms a forest, it means a climax community has been reached, where no other external bodies or external plants will be accommodated in such habitat again. That is what ecological succession simply means. This is a picture representing how ecological succession means. The first inhabitants of such bare or barren land are what we call to as community pioneers. They are followed by organisms. Some organisms will now come to such habitat. And once a stable community is reached, newcomers cannot be welcome or would be accommodated in such ecological succession is. You can see from my picture here, this is a bare soil, a barren land, there's nothing on it. Before you know it, grasses will come, shrubs will start growing, forest trees will start growing too, and this forestry will be growing each year to form what actually looks like a thick forest, like a normal forest. And once they reach their climax, no newcomers will be accommodated in such community again. That is ecological succession. There's another picture that shows ecological succession. The first trees that you see there or plants are the annual, followed by perennial, then shrubs, softwood, example like spines, that is those ones that looks like Christmas trees. Then we have hardwoods and thick trees too, where at the end of the day, once the climax community is reached, they form a thick forest. When you enter such, you know that this is a thick forest because you see different types of trees with different heights. But once a particular one or a particular group reach the climax, no other plants can actually be welcome to inhabit such environment or community again. Now let's move on. What are the types of succession we have? We have two types of successions. The first one is the primary succession, which occurs on a previously barren land. Lifeless area where soil has not yet been formed. That is where you see a primary succession taking place. The first plants to appear on this barren land are called primary colonizers, which are always green plants. That is on a bare ground or a bare surface, which no activities has ever occurred there. The first thing you will see on such bare soil are green plants, which we refer to as primary colonizers. Once these plants are well established, then you will see different animal organisms arriving into the system to come and inhabit the place. It usually starts with lower organisms like leech, and then takes a longer time to reach a climax. E.g., example of a primary succession are found in ponds. You see, if you have been to a pond, you see that first you see some tiny organism in that environment. At a point, this organism will start growing and look like small fishes that we can normally put in our aquarium at home. Then before you know it, you see toad, you see trout from frogs in such community at like a pond, for example. Also, you can see primary succession happening on vegetation of rocks, mangrove forest, and also estuarine habitats. This is a picture representing a primary succession on a terrestrial site. The first thing you will see are the exposed rocks, leech, which we all refer to as pioneer community. They are the first inhabitants of that community. Then with time, as time goes on, you will see trees, different types of trees growing in that community until a climax or stable community is reached. That is, when all the trees there are of equal equilibrium. That is what we refer to as climax community. And like I said earlier on, once climax community has been reached or the community is stable, there's no new grass or new plant that will be accommodated in such community. The second one is the secondary succession. The secondary succession occurs in area where a community of plants and animals that existed in the past has been destroyed, either by natural events or human activities. That is, if the farmer has a particular land, after harvesting for a particular year, he decides to burn all other weeds or shrubs that are on that farm. Thereby, it has destroyed that plant or animal organisms that normally live there. But with time, after that land has been let for a long time, you will see that these animals or these plants will start to regenerate back. They start to grow back, and this can happen due to natural events like volcanoes, drought, tsunami, earthquake, and the rest, or even by human activities such as bush burning, cutting down of grass or trees, which we call deforestation. A good example is after a fire, like I said, when plant and animal organisms are in bonds and where plant life regenerate at a particular time and they start activities from the scratch all over again. That is what a secondary succession is. This is a picture showing how a secondary succession begins on a soil surface. The first thing you will see are the annual weeds. They start growing bit by bit. Then perennial weeds will follow. Like we all know, weeds are unwanted plants that grows where they are not actually planted. Then this will follow shrubs, and before you know it, trees will begin to form, and those trees will actually, at the end of the day, makes a forest. That is how a secondary succession begins and ends. Like I said, at a particular time, they will reach what we call a climax or stable community. We have different factors that actually give rise to primary succession. We have another one that is due to other activities like farming, thunderstorm, earthquake, landslide, volcano eruption, and many other natural activities. We also have human activities such as deposition of sand dunes. We have mining or construction activities happening on a particular community or succession. These and many more are the various factors that actually give rise to primary succession. Let's move on. Let's see the major communities in plant succession. We have about 3 communities in plant succession. The first one are the ones we call the pioneer or early colonizers. That is the first people or the first set of plants or organisms that reside on that habitat. These include first group of plants. They are small, they are usually small, lower plant and highly drought resistant organisms. That is, no amount of drought can actually take them away. They are highly adapted to growing on bare surface, barren land, e.g. algae, leech, moss, and liverworts. These are the examples of plants that actually the one we refer to as first colonizer or pioneer or early colonizers of a particular plant succession. The second one are the one we refer to as developmental, intermediate, or transitory community. These are series of communities which follow the pioneers, with each succeeding community becomes more complex and then the one is eventually replaced. Examples of these are herbivorous plants such as thallium. And the third one is the one we call climax community. This is the terminal plant succession or stable community which establishes equilibrium with ecological condition within the locality. They have great species diversity and bigger life forms. That is, what you always see there are the trees and shrubs. Like I said or shown in the diagram, once a climate community, that is, once you see tree tours inhabiting all that community, you know that a climate community or stable community has been reached. And we have different species of plants and animals or organisms in such climate community. Like I said earlier on, a community is a stable, self-perpetuating set of organisms that experiences very little fluctuation with regards to species composition over a long period of time. With all these activities that has been happening on this land, we have different organisms coming to that community, we have different plants inhabiting that community. At the end of the day, overcrowding will set in. The place will be overcrowded with different plant organisms. What is overcrowding? Overcrowding occurs when a population in a given habitat increases beyond a point where the resources in the habitat are not enough to support all the individuals in the population. Overcrowding may be caused by either or both of the following reasons. 1, failure of organisms to move out or disperse from a place of their birth. Secondly, addition of individual of the same species to an existing population. Like I said, population arises when overcrowding, arises where the resources are no longer available or can no longer go around the required population of a place at that particular time. That is, food, water, and some other things are not enough to go around the place because the population in that place has been overcrowded. They are more than the required. That is what overcrowding is. This is a picture showing a plant, a community with different types of plants growing on it. Here you will see wheat, you will see different types of plant organisms in this environment. At a point in time, that place will be overcrowded. You will not know which is which. You don't know Thalinium plant from any other plant. Everything, you even see wheat. Different would be growing on this kind of community because of overcrowding. Let's see another example. These sheep or goats being crowded in a particular place. And this is very bad because diseases can easily spread in this condition. This is a picture showing how an animal population is being overcrowded. Another good example is this family picture. You see the children sleeping in every available place. They can actually lay their hands to sleep. This is overcrowded. If there's another word used to describe overcrowded, I will have used it. Because in this home, viruses like the coronavirus pandemic that are actually happening globally now can kill everybody in this family. Because within minutes, everybody will have the virus in their system because of overcrowding. That is why we have been advised that we should stay 2 meters at least away from the next person to us so that we can actually break the chain of transmission of these viruses. Please endeavor never to be in an overcrowded place. It's a picture, a very good picture showing human population or human in a habitat being overcrowded. This is a home, I believe. This is where they live, father, mother, and children, families, grandmother, everybody is here in this room. It is very bad. What are the factors that causes overcrowding? We have different factors that causes overcrowding. When increases beyond the carrying capacity of a habitat, it actually leads to overcrowding because the resources in such habitat, such as food and space, are not enough to support all the individuals in that population or in that habitat. Now, let's see the factors one after the other. The first one is natality and immigration. These are very two important factors that add individual to a population due to birth rate, that is reproduction. And this will lead to overcrowding. High natality causes a population to increase in size. Before you know it, in a particular habitat, people, me, I give birth to 4. My friend had 5, another had 7. You know, we keep populating the population size like that. And before you know it, a particular country will be overcrowded. The resources available will not be able to go around. The result will now be survival of the fittest. If you are fit, then you'll be able to struggle for food, for water, for so many things. Birth rates, actually, we all know, add to the population size of a community or habitat. The second one is decrease in mortality rate. When the number of deaths in a population is lower than the number of births, the population automatically increases and overcrowding is setting with immediate effect. The third one is absence of predators. When there are predators and prey in an ecosystem and the predators are removed from the system, the prey organisms are able to breed. That is, they will be able to reproduce and survive. And then they have the power to expand their population. This also leads to overcrowding of such ecosystem. The last one is the immigration, which when more and more organisms move into a certain area, population density automatically increases, and competition for resources intensify, and automatically it will lead to overcrowding. Like I said earlier on, overcrowding does not only affect animals or humans, it can also happen in field of crops or beds of carrots. In plants, the factors that affect plant growth include sufficient light, water, soil, and soil nutrients. These are actually the factors that actually arose overcrowding in an ecosystem or in a particular population. Let's see the effects of overcrowding. We have many effects of overcrowding. Example is shortage of food, space, and water. When a particular population or ecosystem is being overcrowded, there will be reduction in food. The food there will not be able to go around the overpopulated people or population of such environment or ecosystem. Space and water too will be very short. It will not be able to go around the overcrowded community. Another one is rapid spread of diseases. No, this one is a no-no. Before you know it, just in some schools that are overcrowded, if a child is having ringworm or measles or chicken pox and the class is overcrowded, before you know it, by the next day you will see parents phoning in, calling in, my daughter is sick, is having this, is having that. That is why it is, they always advise school, when they always advise parents, when a child is not feeling fine, especially when you see a particular infection or diseases growing on their body, we advise you keep them at home so you will not come to school and spread the diseases to other innocent children. When a place is overcrowded, it's an avenue for the spreading of different diseases. It also increased the competition for resources. Yes, when a particular ecosystem or in such ecosystem. Sorry about that. Let's continue with our class. The last one I'll be talking about is reduced rates of reproduction in overcrowded place. Yes, that's also one of the effects of overcrowding. It reduces the rate of reproduction in crowded place, crowded condition. Now let's see factors that actually affect the size of a population. But before then, what is a population? A population is the total number of individuals of a given species in an habitat at a particular time. Populations are being influenced by changes in their environment at all times. As a result, the number of population of organisms in a particular population constantly fluctuates. The following are factors that can affect a population. Number one is natality, like I explained earlier on. When there is an increase in the population due to reproduction of new individuals, is one of the factors that actually affect the population. Also mortality rates, that is when there is high death rate of individuals in a community or ecosystem. We also have immigration and migration. Immigration is the decrease in population where organisms move out permanently from an habitat. And why immigration occurs when there is an increase in a population due to movement of individuals from one habitat to another. Like every one of us wants to go to Canada or United States of America to settle one day. By doing this, we are overpopulating the population of their countries. That is why a country like United States of America is very keen on immigrants. Now, they don't want people to come to their country again. They believe the resources available won't be able to go around the population, and they don't want their country to be overpopulated or overcrowded. These and many more are actually the factors that affect the population size of a particular ecosystem or community. With this, I would like to tell you that we have come to the end of our 9th week topic for this term, which is ecology of population, under which we discuss about overcrowding. Please, you are advised to go to the school website to download the full comprehensive notes on this topic and follow the assignment and answer the assignment that follows. With this, you will pass all your tests and any examinations that comes your way. You can also get our recommended text, Excellence in Biology for Senior Secondary School Book 2 by FAKE, Essential Biology for Senior Secondary School by MC Michael. You can also use other recommended texts like Modern Biology or any good biology textbook that can actually throw more light on this topic. If you have enjoyed today's class, please let's make it a date next week for another interesting topic. And by that time, by next week, we'll be concluding, we'll be having a concluding topic for this term. That will be our 10th week topic. Like I always tell you, please ensure you wash your hands regularly, sanitize them with an alcohol-based hand sanitizers. And when you are going out, ensure you use your nose mask, and please maintain social distance. I pray God will take this pandemic away in no time, and we can all resume back to school in a good health condition. At this point, I would like to tell you, bye.